Hello all, welcome to the Solocast of Firecode Tech. In these episodes, it's just going to be me, your host, Gus Gagliardi. There's going to be a range of topics, but I'm going to talk about specific technologies, installation standards, codes and how they work, as well as some other interesting topics that don't neatly fit inside of the context of a normal interview. Hello all, welcome to another Solocast edition of Firecode Tech. On this episode, we're talking about hangar fire protection, something that is near and dear to my heart. So there is a bunch to dive into for hangar fire protection. So in this episode, we're going to look at some of the common fire protection systems, as always, the codes and standards around the subject, and we're going to take a look at some of the other design features associated with hangar fire protection and hangars in general. They provide a unique set of challenges for design for all trades, not just fire protection. And so, this is an episode that I've been thinking about for a while and that I have quite some experience with. So I hope you enjoy, and we will do a couple episodes on this subject. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and follow us on social media. Oh, and if you feel so inclined, it would be a huge help if you would give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Let's dive into the show. So, standard disclaimer here, we are looking at the fire protection hazards and codes and standards through the lens of the codes and standards in the United States. I will be giving reference to more specifically the adopted codes and standards in Oklahoma. So right now the state has adopted IBC 2018. That is a bit of a preface for our first topic, which is what are the codes and standards around hangar fire protection? So, as you can imagine, there are specific requirements in the building code for aircraft hangars. That section specifically is section 412, which is aircraft-related occupancies. As we talked about before, chapter 4 has special occupancy-related chapters, and when you have a building or a facility type that is especially dangerous or has unique properties that require more advanced fire protection features, generally you'll find a lot of these features in Chapter 4 of the Building Code. So there are some provisions in the Building Code that are mirrored within the standard for aircraft hangars, which is NFPA 409. Let's talk about a couple of these special requirements that are located in the building code. Once again, that's section 412, aircraft-related occupancies. So our discussion today will focus more on aircraft hangars, but section 412 in the International Building Code covers a variety of buildings that are associated with many types of aircrafts. So one of those buildings is air traffic control towers. I don't have much experience with these buildings, but they have many special requirements due to the abnormal configuration of these buildings. Abnormal in that they are very tall and have a limited number of egress points because of their height and configuration. The discussion today will be centered predominantly on aircraft hangars. Now, there are a couple of different types of aircraft hangars. There are light and heavy maintenance aircraft hangars. There are fuel cell hangars, which is where they do repair on the fuel tanks and compartments of aircrafts. And then there are paint hangars, which is where they do the commercial painting for the exterior of the aircraft. And then there are manufacturing hangars, so where airplanes are assembled or manufactured. So as you can imagine, there are further requirements for each of these special type of hangar, but the most common type of hangar would be the light or the heavy maintenance hangars. So we'll focus our discussion on that aircraft hangar for today. So the beginning of section 412 for aircraft-related occupancy states 412.1, general, aircraft-related occupancies shall comply with sections 412 through 412.7 and the International Fire Code. So in 412, we can see specific sections that talk about construction types, and construction types and fire area play a huge part in what fire protection systems are required in the facility. So before we talk about hangar classification, let's just start with the preface that if you can think about it as a fire and life safety system, likely the classification of the building as an aircraft hangar will affect that life safety system. So just for conversation's sake, let's list off some of the life safety features that will definitely be impacted if you have an aircraft maintenance facility that you are designing. Egress, building construction, fire alarm, fire suppression, fire separated assemblies. There are other design features that are impacted, like the sloping of the floors and the type of heating or conditioning that you will have selected. Oftentimes, aircraft hangars are not conditioned, so they'll be heated but not cooled. Depending on the fueled nature of the aircraft, whether it is fueled or unfueled, or what type of work is being done in the hangar, there might be hazardous classification of the electrical system. So that's Class 1 Div 1 or Class 1 Div 2. Hazardous classification for electrical is a topic for a whole video, but for the purposes of this discussion, there are parts of the hangar which can be Class 1 Div 1 or Class 1 Div 2, which effectively means that there are, in Class 1 Div 1, there are situations that could be hazardous for flammables and combustibles present at all times, and Class 1 Div 2 is, in some instances, there will inadvertently be flammables or combustibles, but so that adds a huge cost for explosion rated electrical devices in the hangar, depending on what kind of work you're doing inside of the aircraft hangar. So before we talk about what are the different fire protection approaches for aircraft hangars, we have to talk about the classification of aircraft hangars. So there is group 1, 2, 3, and 4 aircraft hangars. And then there are other chapters in NFPA 409 that have huge sweeping implications for the hangar is paint hangars, which is chapter 10 in the latest edition of NFPA 409. As always, but more importantly with hangars, you need to know what the edition of codes and standards you're working with. And the reason why it's so important for aircraft hangars is there are only versions of NFPA 409 made approximately every 4 years. So there are huge changes in what is allowed between the editions. The 2011 edition is much different from the 2016 edition, is extremely different from the 2022 edition, which is the latest version that has come out. This can mean the difference of needing 2 fire protection water storage tanks for your facility, or maybe not needing them at all with the 2022 edition of the code. So it really pays to understand codes and standards and what version of the standard that you're using. So let's get back to hangar classification, because this is the first step for determining what fire protection systems are required for your hangar. So as we talked about before, there are 4 types of hangars, and the most hazardous type of hangar in the group 1 through 4 categories is group 1. So depending on the maximum fire area inside of your hangar and the construction type, you can classify your hangar. So once again, we're looking at the 2022 edition of NFPA 409, which is the standard for aircraft hangars. And more specifically, we're looking at Chapter 4, which is aircraft hangar groups. Chapter 4 lays out the process for determining which group your hangar is in, which will in turn stipulate a lot of requirements about the protections and the features that your hangar will need to have. So we start off with the most hazardous group, which is the Group 1 aircraft hangar. And it says in 4.1.1, a Group 1 aircraft hangar shall have at least one of the following features and operating conditions: an aircraft access door height of 8.5 meters or 28 feet, a single fire area in excess of 3,716 meters squared or 40,000 square feet, provision for housing of an aircraft with a tail height over 8.5 meters. So as you can see here, the two biggest drivers for if you have a Group 1 aircraft hangar is the square footage of the aircraft hangar or the height of the aircraft. So over 28 feet, servicing an aircraft with over 28 feet of tail height or door height. So if you can get a aircraft with a top clearance of 28 feet, then you are meeting this requirement. So you can tell briefly by taking a look at the square footage of the largest aircraft hangar bay. So let's take a look at Group 2 aircraft hangars. 4.1.2, a Group 2 aircraft hangar shall have both of the following features: an aircraft access door of a height of 8.5 meters or 28 feet or less, a single fire area for specific types of construction in accordance with Table 4.1.2. So for Group 2 and Group 3 aircraft hangars, there are tables which have construction types which give additional allowances for how large or small your fire area can be before it is a Group 2 or Group 3 aircraft hangar. So Group 1 is nice and neat at 40,000 square feet and 28 feet of door height, but Group 2 and Group 3 have a little bit more nuance as they take into account the square footage in comparison to the construction type. So there are a couple different thresholds. 30,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet, 15,000 square feet, and based on, if you're type 1 through 5 construction, you can be within these Group 2 and Group 3 hangars. After you determine which group of hangar that you are classified as, you would go to the specific chapter for that group of hangar. New to the 2022 edition of the standard, there is a performance-based design approach. I won't talk about that in this episode since I have no experience with performance-based design, really, especially not in the form of aircraft hangars since it is so new, but thought it was worth noting. Chapter 6, which talks about aircraft hangar groups and their fire protection requirements. I wanted to end with 6.1.1, which will be a starting place for our next discussion on aircraft hangars, which states some of the fire protection systems that are allowed for a Group 1 hangar. That section states the protection of aircraft storage and servicing areas for a Group 1 aircraft hangar shall be in accordance with any one of the following: foam water deluge system as specified in 6.2.2. In addition, supplementary protection systems as specified in 6.2.3 shall be provided in hangars housing a single aircraft having wing areas greater than 3,000 square feet. Part 2. A combination of automatic sprinkler protection in accordance with 6.2.4 and automatic low-level, low-expansion foam system in accordance with 6.2.5. Part 3. A combination of automatic sprinkler protection in accordance with 6.2.4 and an automatic low-level high-expansion foam system in accordance with 6.2.5. So this section basically gives allowance for the combination of fire protection systems, which will be allowed to protect Group 1 aircraft hangars. As a recap, there are high expansion foam or low expansion foam in combination with sprinklers. That's going to do it for this episode of Fire Code Tech. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening, everybody. Be sure to share the episode with a friend if you enjoyed it. Don't forget that fire protection and life safety is serious business. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are by no means a professional consultation or a codes and standards interpretation. Be sure to contact a licensed professional if you are getting involved with fire protection and or life safety. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.